She was forced to choose between two men who risked everything for her. But why? What decision she finally made? Camilla Hart had built her life like she ran her company. Sharp, sleek, and unbreakable. At 38, she was the youngest woman to ever grace the cover of Modern Executives. She ran a fashion tech empire from a glass and steel fortress in downtown San Francisco, held weekly investor calls in stilettos sharper than most men's egos, and never, not once, mixed business with personal. Until now, it started with a quarterly report, or rather, the wreckage of one. Numbers weren't just dipping, they were nosediving. Retail partnerships were unraveling. Overseas suppliers were pulling out. The media had caught wind, circling like vultures. Her COO had resigned without warning. Camilla had kept her cool, but she knew the truth. The empire was cracking, and cracks invited collapse. So she did what she always did. She planned. She doubled her caffeine intake and tripled her hours. She isolated the variables. She restructured her calendar. She leaned on the two men who knew her business better than anyone. Unfortunately, those two men were also the problem. Aiden Shun, 29, brilliant, decisive, a senior product strategist with a Stanford pedigree and eyes like he saw through her. The first time he challenged her in a meeting, she'd been furious. The second time, impressed. By the third, she was wondering what kind of cologne he wore and why it lingered in the boardroom after he left. Then there was Theo Reyes, 32, head of brand partnerships, loyal to a fault. Quick with a joke, steady with pressure, disarmingly handsome in a way that didn't demand attention, but got it anyway. He'd started as a temp 6 years ago. Now he sat 2 doors down. And lately, both of them looked at her like she was more than their boss. Camilla hated this feeling, not because it was messy, but because it was real. And real didn't belong in the glass tower she built. That morning, she walked into the office before sunrise. No muck-up, hair pullback, a gray blazer over a simple white tee. Practical, unreadable, the kind of outfit that said, "I'm fine," even when she wasn't. Her assistant, Maddie, handed her a note as soon as she stepped into her office. "Lunch, rooftop. You need this. Trust me. T." She almost crumpled it. 10 minutes later, a text. "Dinner instead. Change of plans. Don't disappear. Hey." No emojis, no context, just confidence. Camilla sank into her leather chair, note in one hand, phone in the other. The city outside buzzed toward morning, traffic, cranes, construction. She stared at both messages for a long time. The board meeting was in 3 days. Her CFO had gone silent. Her inbox had 4 flagged threads labeled urgent. But this, 2 men, both circling, both stepping forward just as her world tilted sideways. This was something else. Something she hadn't made space for in her carefully calibrated life. And for the first time since the chaos began, she didn't know which invitation scared her more. Camilla didn't move for 5 full minutes. She stayed in her chair, phone in one hand, note in the other, sunlight rising slowly behind her like a threat. The city was already awake, construction beeping below, a coffee cart clinking across the street, the sound of gears grinding on deadlines. But inside her office, time slowed. Dinner instead. Don't disappear. Hey, lunch, rooftop. You need this. Trust me. T. She hadn't answered either. Not with words, at least. But by noon, she walked into the executive conference room. Not because she had to, but because control was still her only form of self-defense. Her heels echoed off polished tile. Her blazer was back on. Her eyes said, "Not now. Not today." The meeting was tense. Quarterly numbers. Supply chain forecasts. One board member dared to mention restructuring. She shut it down with a single sentence. "This is where we really are," she said, tapping the red line on the chart that sliced the screen like a blade. Aiden exhaled. Theo looked away. When the room cleared, neither of them moved. Camilla stayed seated, arms folded, unsure if she wanted to scream or sleep. Theo lingered by the door. "You didn't say no to lunch." "I didn't say yes." "Dinner, then?" His voice dropped. "We need to talk." "About the influencer?" she asked, guarded. "No, about us." Before she could answer, Aiden appeared in the doorway behind him. His voice cut clean through the tension. "Camilla, I need 5 minutes, he said, then added, precise as ever. Alone. House my. Of course you do. And he left without waiting. Camilla froze. Because whatever Aiden was about to say, she wasn't ready for it. Close the door, she said anyway. He did. And when he turned, something shifted. No more strategy. No more structure. No corporate veil. Just the look of a man who knew exactly what he wanted and had just realized he might lose it. Aiden stepped closer, but not too close. I know this isn't the time, he said, voice low, and I know what it looks like. Us. Me. Now. She didn't interrupt. Couldn't. But I need you to understand, he continued. This isn't just a thing I fell into. It's not office proximity. It's not stress. It's not admiration in disguise. It's you. Camilla stared at him, heartbeat loud in her ears. You're the most brilliant person I've ever worked with, Aiden said. But you're also the only one I've ever, he stopped, eyes searching hers, actually waited for. She said nothing, because the problem wasn't that she didn't feel something. The problem was that she felt too much for him, for Theo, for a life she hadn't let herself imagine. And the timing was a mess. I'm not asking you for anything, Aiden said. I just needed you to know, before the boardroom makes you forget that you're human. That broke something loose. Camilla inhaled, sharp and shaky. I can't afford to be human right now, she whispered. I know, he said. And then, because it was Aiden, he left. Just like that. No drama. No pressure. Just the truth, laid bare and left behind like an open file. Camilla stood there for a long time, staring at the closed door. It was 1:17 p.m., and she still hadn't looked at Theo's rooftop note. Camilla didn't usually drink at work, but that afternoon, she made an exception. There was a half bottle of wine in the break room fridge, a neglected relic from someone's birthday the week before. She poured 2 fingers into a coffee mug and stood by the window, watching the city churn below. Traffic, ambition, chaos. All of it humming like a machine that wouldn't stop just because her world was glitching. She should have been prepping for the board, or reviewing contracts, or sending a firm no to a VC circling like a shark. Instead, she was thinking about Aiden's voice. The way it had dropped when he said her name, like it wasn't just a name, like it was a decision. And Theo's note, still unread in her bag, pulsed like it knew. When she finally pulled it out, the handwriting hit her harder than she expected. Slanted, quick, confident. Rooftop at 6. You need to breathe. No pitch, no pressure. Just come up. It wasn't a demand, but it wasn't a maybe either. She almost didn't go. But when the elevator dinged open and the sky stretched wide above the rooftop, she realized she hadn't breathed properly in days. Theo was leaning against the ledge, sleeves rolled, sunset brushing the edges of his profile. A few candles flickered near the outdoor table. Casual, low effort. Except not really, because everything Theo did had quiet intention. Still like Merlot? He asked, holding up a glass. She didn't answer, just stepped forward and took it. He didn't fill the silence, just waited, like he always did. Camilla exhaled. You should have left the note on my desk, she said. Wouldn't have worked, Theo replied. You'd have buried it under 10 folders and pretended it was a supply invoice. She smirked. Probably. They sat. The city glowed around them, not blinding, just alive. Like everything below them was running on borrowed light. I don't want to be one of the things stressing you out, he said. You're not, she said too quickly, then added, at least not the worst. He smiled. I'm serious, Cam, he said. Whatever's happening between us, it doesn't need to be right now. But I want it to be real. She looked at him, really looked. There was no pressure in his gaze, no seduction, just someone who saw her, even on the days she didn't want to be seen. I can't offer you clarity, she said. Not right now. I don't need clarity, Theo replied. I just need to know I'm not imagining this. A pause, then another. You're not, she whispered. The air shifted, but before anything more could be said, her phone buzzed. Camilla pulled it out, expecting chaos. Instead, it was a name she hadn't seen in weeks. Victor called her estranged CFO, silent since the collapse began. The message was short, cold. Need to talk. Something's not right. You're not safe. Her stomach dropped. Theo saw her face change. What is it? She stood slowly. I don't know yet. And for the first time all day, she wasn't thinking about feelings or tension or the impossible choice between two men. She was thinking about sabotage and the terrifying possibility that this wasn't just a bad quarter. It was a takedown. It was later that same evening. Camilla didn't remember standing up or walking to the window, but there she was, back turned, arms crossed, breath shallow as Aiden stood behind her, still silent. She could feel him thinking, could feel the weight of everything he hadn't said since the first time he challenged her in that pitch meeting 9 months ago. Could feel it pressing against the air between them. I know the timing's a disaster, he said quietly. She laughed, sharp, short. Understatement. But I meant what I wrote. She turned just slightly, enough to glance at him. You wrote 4 words. He held her gaze. I meant all of them. She didn't want to admit what that did to her. How it twisted something low in her stomach. Not in a bad way. In the worst kind of good way. I built this company, she said, her voice a notch above a whisper. I bled for it. I've watched men with half my vision be called brilliant while I was called difficult. And now, when everything's on fire, you want to complicate it with feelings. No, Aiden said. I want to simplify it with truth. That made her blink. He stepped closer, slowly, like he knew how fragile the space between them was. You've been trying to fix everything by shutting everyone out. But Camilla, this doesn't work if you erase the people who believe in you. And you believe in me? She asked, the steel creeping back into her voice. Or are you just another man who wants to say he built something with a girl on a magazine cover? His jaw tensed. I'm not interested in headlines. She turned fully to face him now. Then what are you interested in? You. One word. No softegis. Camilla's heart did something traitorous. But before she could respond, before she could even process, her office door opened. Hell, holding 2 coffees, looking like he'd walked into the middle of a fire and only just realized it. Didn't mean to interrupt, he said. Camilla froze. Aiden stepped back. Theo's eyes moved between them with the kind of quiet precision that came from years of knowing how to read a room and being smart enough not to comment on it. He walked forward, placed 1 coffee on her desk, and held the other out to her. No almond milk, he said softly. They were out. I risked out. She took it with a nod, too stunned to speak. Theo smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Boards waiting for final figures. I'll be there in 10, she said, her voice still shaky. Theo turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. You should drink it while it's hot. Some things don't get better if you wait too long. And then he was gone. The room fell silent again. Camilla looked down at the coffee in her hand. Aiden didn't move. For the record, he said, I didn't plan this. She nodded slowly. I know, but she wasn't sure what she believed anymore. Because somehow, in the span of 10 minutes, both men had made her feel seen in ways she hadn't felt in years. And that terrified her more than the numbers, more than the press, more than the collapsing deals. Because numbers she could fix. But this was personal. Camilla didn't sleep. She told herself it was just work, deadlines, projections, the board meeting looming like a noose. But that was a lie. It wasn't spreadsheets or profit margins that kept her pacing from the balcony to the wine rack at 3 a.m. It was the way Aiden had said, you like a promise. It was the way Theo had said some things don't get better if you wait too long, like a dare wrapped in kindness. And it was the message from Victor Calder, her vanished CFO, burning in her inbox like a warning she couldn't decode. You're not safe. Not the company. You. Camilla had faced takeovers, smear campaigns, union strikes. But this felt different. She hadn't heard from Victor since he'd ghosted the investor summit 3 weeks ago. She'd chalked it up to burnout, or cowardice. Now she wondered if it had been something else entirely. She sat in the corner of her penthouse, robe drawn tight, the city buzzing far below, and opened the encrypted file Victor had attached. There were 3 PDFs. One was a contract she'd never signed, a licensing deal with Sarah and Finch Holdings dated last month. It bore her forged signature. The second was a financial report from a Taiwanese shell company, routing kickbacks to an account under Theo's name. The third was a photograph. Aiden, at dinner, with a man Camilla recognized instantly. Martin Glazer, her primary competitor, The same man who tried to poach her entire engineering team last fall. The same man she'd once overheard saying she ran her company like a glossy PR stunt with heels. In the photo, Aiden was leaning in, smiling. Notia, wine glass in hand. The timestamp was from 10 days ago, the night after he told her she was the only one he'd ever waited for. Camilla's blood ran cold. The betrayal, if that's what it was, wasn't just romantic. It was existential. Aiden had access to every prototype roadmap, every product iteration not yet announced. Theo had signed off on the Taiwan deal she'd flagged last week. Her own COO had walked out after a closed-door meeting with both of them. Could they have been playing her? Together? Her throat tightened. She pressed play on the voice message Victor had included at the end of the email. Camilla, it's not what you think. Or maybe it is. I don't know anymore. All I know is that someone's trying to get your company from the inside. I was supposed to sign off on a merger, quietly, but the numbers didn't add up. Then I got a call telling me to back off, or my wife wouldn't make it home that night. I didn't listen. 2 days later, she was hit crossing Van Ness. I'm not saying it was connected. I'm just saying don't trust anyone, especially not the ones closest to you. The message ended in static. Camilla sat motionless, not crying, not panicking, just cold, because somewhere in her gut, she knew this wasn't just about business anymore. This was a takedown, a silent war, and she was sleeping with the enemy, or maybe both of them. She didn't go to the office the next morning. Instead, she drove north, out of the city. No destination, just motion. She needed space. She needed air. She needed truth. By noon, she was parked on the cliffside overlooking near beach, hair tangled by the wind, phone face down in the passenger seat. She hadn't responded to Theo's last text, or Aiden's, or the 8 missed calls from her head of PR. She just watched the tide roll in, like it could wash the lies away. But didn't, because the worst part wasn't the possibility that they'd lied. It was the possibility that they hadn't, and that she'd still pushed away the only real connections she'd let in since building this empire of glass. Her phone buzzed again. Not a message this time. A call. Hell, she didn't answer. 2 minutes later, another. Aiden. She silenced it. Then finally, Maddie. She answered that one. Cam, Maddie said, voice low, urgent. You need to get back. Now. Why? The press just leaked something. About the Taiwan deal. About insider sabotage. And Theo's name is all over it. Camilla gripped the wheel. And Aiden, quiet. Too quiet. Legal can't reach him. Neither can PR. And Glazer just posted a cryptic tweet about acquiring culture, not just companies. She didn't need a translation. It was happening. The storm wasn't coming. It was here. Camilla turned the ignition. And for the first time in months, she wasn't unsure. She was furious. They wanted her empire? They could try. But if Aiden and Theo thought they could bury her behind charm and glances and rooftop confessions, they didn't know her at all. Camilla walked into the boardroom like a weapon. No makeup, no uedi, no softegis, just a fitted black blazer over a slate gray blouse and eyes that didn't blink. The 12 directors seated around the massive obsidian table quieted the moment they saw her. Some were old allies, others opportunists. One, she noted with bitter amusement, refused to meet her gaze at all. She didn't sit. Before we begin, she said, voice like cut glass, I want to address the story running on Tech Insider. A flicker of discomfort. Fingers twitched. Phones vibrated under the table. Camilla continued. Yes, a supplier in Taiwan was quietly absorbed by Glazer-linked holding company. Yes, money was moved through accounts linked to my senior team. And yes, my name was forged on an international licensing contract that, if executed, would have sold our proprietary AI to our largest competitor. Silence. Then a single voice from the left. I assume you have evidence. She turned toward the projector without flinching. I don't assume. I know. She tapped her tablet, and the screen lit up with the first document from Victor's file. The forged signature. Then the Taiwan transaction record. Then the dinner photo. Aiden. Glazer. Wine. Smiles. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The weight of it said enough. When the final slide faded, she closed the tablet and looked at them. Not one by one. All at once. I've built this company from the ground up, she said. I've sacrificed more than anyone in this room knows. And I will not stand by while whispers replace facts and ambition becomes ammunition. A pause. My legal team is initiating an internal investigation. Until then, all executive contracts are frozen, including Aiden Chen's. That landed like a grenade. What about Reyes? Someone asked low. Camilla's eyes narrowed. What about him? The room fell still, because no one wanted to be the one to say it. That Theo's name was in the leak too. That there were whispers of backdoor meetings, of whispered deals. That he'd once signed off on a vendor now flagged for fraud. But Camilla said nothing, because in that moment, she didn't know the truth either. She only knew the ache behind her ribs, the sick, sinking gravity of betrayal, and worse, the possibility of being wrong about everything. The meeting ended without applause. No handshakes, just the quiet retreat of men too afraid to choose sides yet. Camilla walked out, heels clicking like hammers down the hallway, until she reached the one place she could still breathe. The rooftop. It was empty now, cold. The candles Theo had once lit were gone. She stood at the edge, San Francisco sprawling beneath her like a battlefield. Her phone buzzed. How? Don't listen to the noise. Please, meet me. I can explain. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. A minute later, Aiden. I didn't betray you. I didn't sell anything, but I did lie about something. Meet me. I'll tell you the truth, even if it cost me everything. Camilla didn't reply to either, not because she didn't want to, but because her heart was split down the middle, and neither man was standing on steady ground anymore. A gust of wind cut across the rooftop, lifting her hair, stinging her eyes. She didn't cry, not yet, but she stood there for a long time, torn between two men, and haunted by the sinking feeling that the real threat hadn't even shown its face yet. Camilla didn't go home that night. She didn't go to her penthouse or her office or the rooftop where too many words had gone unsaid. Instead, she found herself in an all-night diner just off Mission, the kind of place where no one cared who you were, so long as you tipped and didn't take up a booth too long. She sat in the back, fingers curled around a chipped mug of burnt coffee, her reflection fractured in the aluminum napkin dispenser. She hadn't spoken in hours, not since the boardroom, not since the messages, not since the moment she realized she could no longer tell the difference between loyalty and leverage. Her phone buzzed again. Aiden, I'm outside. Please, just 5 minutes. You deserve the whole story. She didn't want to move. She didn't want to listen, but she stood anyway, because part of her still needed answers. Because part of her still believed in something, even if it wasn't him. Outside, the city was bone cold. Aiden was leaning against a street lamp, coat open, hair a little too perfect for this late. Thank you, he said softly. Make it count, she replied. He nodded. I met with Glazer, he said, because I was scared. Camilla didn't flinch. Try again. I was scared you'd go down with this company, that no one would protect you if it collapsed. So you ran to the man, trying to gut it? I didn't run, Aiden said, stepping closer. I went to him with a bluff. I offered to trade a product roadmap in exchange for a delay on his acquisition play. I thought I could stall him, give you time to fix things. Her eyes narrowed. You went behind my back to protect me. Yes. You leaked confidential IP. No, he said. I never gave him anything. I recorded the meeting, sent it to Victor. That's how I got that photo. Camilla's breath caught. You're lying. I'm not, he said, pulling out his phone. Here, listen. He handed it over. Her thumb hovered over the screen. And then, reluctantly, she pressed play. The audio was grainy, but clear enough. You'll get the files when I get written proof you're pulling out of Taiwan. I don't play until the terms are real. That was Aiden's voice. Calm, cold. Glazer responded, amused. You sound like her. All fire and armor. Camilla's stomach flipped. She stopped the audio. Aiden's eyes were steady. I didn't betray you, he said, but I did hide it. I knew you'd never forgive the meeting itself, even if it was for you. Silence stretched. Then she whispered, I don't know what to do with this. You don't have to do anything, he said. Just know it. He walked away after that. No pressure, no promises, just the truth, laid down like a card between them. And Camilla, for the first time, didn't know if it was enough. When she returned to her car, her phone was flashing again. A new message. Theo, I'm sorry. I can't explain everything yet, but I need you to know I never took a cent, and I didn't leak anything. I'm being set up, and it's not just me they're coming for. Be careful, and if you don't hear from me by morning, check the server logs from last Friday. I buried something there, something no one's supposed to see. Then nothing. Camilla sat frozen in her seat, rereading the message until it blurred. First Aiden's audio, now Theo's warning. And somewhere between the lines, she saw it. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a trap, and she was right in the center of it. But the one thing no one had counted on was that Camilla's heart didn't break. She burned. And in the next part, someone's going to wish they never touched her empire at all. Camilla arrived at headquarters just after dawn. No entourage, no assistant, no lipstick. Just a laptop slung under one arm and a pair of flats, because today wasn't about impressions. It was about war. The building was empty. The kind of quiet that made you wonder if the city knew something was about to break. She used her override credentials to access the back-end servers. No one questioned her. No one was there to. Friday's logs. Theo's last words buzzed in her mind like electricity. Check the server logs from last Friday. I buried something there. It took her 40 minutes to find it. A file nested under 7 layers of decoy code, labeled innocuously Q4_review_internal. But when she opened it, everything cracked. Emails, dozens, maybe hundreds, between Glazer and someone inside her company. The oldest dated back 6 months. Subject, initiation strategy, soft pull. The contents? Chilling. Once Camilla is destabilized internally, we'll begin quietly absorbing her vendors. Her loyalty base is thin. Isolate the one she trusts most. Use Reyes to cover asset redirection. Chun will fold once the board leans in. His weakness is personal. Leverage it. Her breath stilled. Chun. Aiden. Not a target. A tool. She kept scrolling. Her eyes burned, but she didn't blink. There were invoices too, paid out of a shadow marketing budget, signed by someone in HR. A name she didn't recognize, but one tied to her company. And then, near the bottom, a single text thread time-stamped the day of her quarterly meltdown. Unknown. The board's primed. She just needs to slip once. Unknown too. She's close. Chen's either in love or in over his head. Either way, he'll break first. Unknown. Then Reyes is next. He signed the Taiwan papers. He'll take the fall when the story hits. Camilla felt the blood drain from her face. Theo had been set up. And Aiden, Aidan hadn't lead. They weren't just caught in the crossfire. They were chosen. As shields. As weapons. As proof. If this went public, her company would implode. Not because of what she'd done, but because of what they believed she had. She slammed the laptop shut, heart racing. Then behind her, footsteps. Slow, careful, familiar. A bit early for an executive deep dive, don't you think? She turned. Victor, pale, thinner than she remembered. But his eyes, still sharp. You knew, she said. All of it. I suspected, he replied. But suspicion doesn't hold in court or in boardrooms. You disappeared. They told me to back off. I didn't. And your wife? He looked away. She's alive. But it was close. Camilla's jaw clenched. Why come back now? Because it's your move, he said, and I still believe in you. She didn't respond. Couldn't. Because belief felt like a luxury she hadn't been afforded in months. But then Victor pulled something from his coat. A flash drive. Glazer's internal memos. The real playbook. How many others they've done this to? She took it wordless. You take this to the board, he said. You flip the narrative. And if I don't, she asked, they'll bury you, and the men who tried to protect you. Camilla stared out at the sunrise breaking over the city skyline. Burnt orange. Too bright. Too early. But something inside her, something cold and exhausted and furious, sparked back to life. She wasn't going to run. Not anymore. She was going to burn the lies down. And whoever had dared orchestrate this would learn exactly what happened when you try to break a woman who had already bled for everything she built. The boardroom was packed. Not with press, not yet, but the tension was enough to make every leather chair feel too small, every throat too dry. No one touched the sparkling water or the catered croissants. No one moved. The room smelled like nerves. Camilla walked in with slow, deliberate steps. This time, she didn't come alone. Victor Calder followed 2 paces behind, shoulders squared, eyes scanning every face like a man who'd returned from the dead with receipts in both hands. At the far end of the table, Aiden sat tense, jaw clenched, hands folded. Theo stood near the window, arms crossed, face unreadable. He hadn't said a word since arriving. Neither had she. Camilla took the head seat, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. It wasn't polite. It wasn't charming. It was sharp, measured, deadly. "Let's begin," she said. "I believe some of you have concerns about my leadership." No one answered. So she reached into her bag, pulled out a small matte black flash drive, and slid it across the table like a live grenade. "Here's a better concern," she said, nodding to Maddie in the back, who tapped the tablet linked to the projector. The screen came to life. Email headers, dates, wire transfers, names. One board member gasped when their name appeared beside a Shell account. Another dropped their pen. Then came the Glazer strategy documents, voice recordings, photos, Aiden's meeting, time-stamped, audio transcribed, with not just Glazer, but a private investigator Camilla had hired months ago to monitor external threats. And finally, the thread Theo had buried in the server logs. A message chain between the firm's shadow CFO and the man they all thought had retired 2 years ago, Lawrence Bell, her former mentor, the architect of her initial funding. The man who'd once said, "You're brilliant, Camilla, but you'll never outlast them. Not without blood." Now it was clear what he meant, because he'd been the one bleeding her dry from the inside. Camilla stood. "If anyone here would like to resign," she said, voice calm, "now would be the moment." One man got up, then another. Neither met her eyes. The rest? Stone silent. She looked to Theo. His gaze hadn't left the window. "Aren't you going to say something?" she asked quietly. He turned, slowly. "I told you once, I'd catch you if you fell." His voice was low, raw, "But I didn't catch this. And I should have. I signed those papers, Camilla. Even if I didn't know, I gave them the ink." Her chest ached. He wasn't hiding guilt. He was owning it. She nodded just once. "I know," she whispered. Then she turned to Aiden. He didn't speak either, but he didn't have to. His silence had never been absence. It had been armor. For her. Always for her. She exhaled slowly, then faced the remaining board members. "Effective immediately," she said. "Victor Calder is reinstated as CFO. Reyes is cleared. Chun is removed from investigation. All future contracts will pass through forensic audit until further notice." Someone started to object, but stopped, because Camilla's eyes didn't ask for approval anymore. They commanded compliance. The projector blinked off. The room stayed silent. When a meeting ended, it wasn't with applause. It was with the sound of people realizing they'd underestimated the woman in stilettos too many times. Outside the conference room, the air was cold. Theo was the first to leave. No advice, no drama, just a soft nod. Camilla followed him into the hall. He paused, unsure if she wanted to speak. She did. "You've always had my trust," she said, "even when you didn't know what to do with it." Theo looked at her, not as a man who lost, but as one who finally understood. "You'll always have my respect," he replied. They didn't hug. They didn't linger. Some goodbyes are silent, because they've already been said. Later, in the lower atrium, Camilla found Aiden seated on the fountain's edge, head bowed over his phone, tension still clinging to his shoulders. When he looked up, he didn't smile, just stood. "I didn't know if I'd see you again," he said. "You helped me when I didn't ask," she replied. "You gave me time, and a target. I also lied. You told the truth when it mattered." He nodded slowly. "Then does this mean?" Camilla stepped forward, but stopped just short of touching him. "I'm grateful to you, Aiden. Deeply. But I don't know what I want right now. Not in love. Not yet." He didn't flinch, didn't plead, just gave her the smallest, honestest smile she'd ever seen on him. "Then I'll wait," he said. "I'm not asking you to. I know." And that was enough. That night, Camilla packed a small bag. No itinerary, no one-way flights, to some glamorous CEO recovery retreat. Just quiet, a place with wind and water and silence. She left 2 notes, one for Theo, one for Aiden. Both said the same thing. Thank you for standing with me when I didn't know how to stand alone. I don't know where this path leads next, but for now, I need to walk it by myself. Then she locked the door and left. The air smelled like sea salt and lemons. Camilla stood barefoot on the terrace of a rented villa overlooking the Amalfi Coast, the kind of place that looked like it belonged in postcards, not real life. The stone beneath her feet was sun-warmed. The breeze tugged gently at the hem of her robe. Somewhere below, a fisherman shouted something in Italian and a child laughed. It was the only sound, aside from the soft rustling of olive trees. She sipped her espresso slowly. No meetings, no calendar, no one watching her. And for the first time in years, she wasn't lonely. She was alone. There was a difference. On the table beside her lay 2 unopened envelopes, forwarded by Maddie last week. One had Theo's handwriting, the other Aiden's. She hadn't opened either. Not yet. Not because she didn't care, but because she finally understood something no quarterly earnings report could measure. She didn't need to answer right now. She just needed to be. She glanced toward the water. Somewhere in the horizon, the sea met the sky without a fight. Her phone buzzed. Not the work phone. The personal one. The one she barely used. She let it buzz again, then finally picked it up. A photo. From Theo. Lisbon rooftops. A quiet garden terrace. A caption. Built this with 3 local kids. They call it Heart House. Thought you'd like that. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. But she didn't type. Not yet. Another buzz. This time from Aiden. A video. Him standing in front of her old office building. The door now gleaming with a new plaque. Heart Innovations. Reimagining Resilience. Didn't change your name, his voice said in the background. Because even after everything, it still means something. She watched the video twice, then set the phone down. No answers. No promises. Just a slow inhale and a quiet smile. She walked to the edge of the terrace and looked out at the sea. I'll know when I'm ready, she whispered to no one. And maybe one day soon she would be. But for now, Camilla Hart had chosen the hardest, boldest, most unexpected thing of all. Time. And in the soft hush of a coastal morning, she gave herself what no one else ever had. A chance to fall in love with her own life again.